I sold a website for $75,000, and it was actually one of the most miserable projects I've ever worked on. In fact, I've had website projects where I charged only $2,000 that were more profitable than that huge project. So more is not always better. And the actual price is not the only factor that makes a website project profitable. So in this video, I want to break down all of those different factors that you must consider when pricing a website project. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you the perfect price to charge for a website based on my own experience and data. So let's get into it. All right, so there are a ton of different factors that you need to consider when determining the price of a website project. The first and most obvious is the actual scope, so the size and complexity of the project. And then you're going to go down this huge list of other considerations. Things like how long is it going to take you? Your expenses for the project. How much stress and risk is involved with the project? Your experience and availability are also going to play a role in how much you charge. You're going to want to consider the industry that the client is in and also the size of the client, because certain clients are going to be able to pay more and are going to expect to pay more. And depending on the case, there are probably lots of other factors that we're not going to cover in this video. So as you're speaking with a new potential client, you're going to have to go through these factors each one by one, and it's going to determine the final price of the project. So the bigger the scope of the project, the more you're going to charge. The more experience you have as a designer, the more you're going to charge. The more time a project takes, the more you're going to charge. The higher your expenses to actually complete the project, you're going to add some to the price. The higher stress and risk that you take on by doing the project is going to allow you to charge more. So if you're sitting there thinking to yourself that this sounds complex and overwhelming, you're right, because it definitely can be. And being able to go through all of these factors and accurately price a project is definitely a skill. And I would say that it's a skill that can't really be refined or perfected without experience. So every time you go through this process with a potential client, you go through all of the factors, and then you bid them a specific quote, you're going to get better and better at that process. Now, as your business grows and you get better, you're going to optimize your entire process, which is going to allow you to charge more. So this whole exercise of pricing a project is probably never going to be the same. It's constantly going to be changing. And unless you just stick to specific website packages, you're probably going to be quoting different prices every single time. And if you do it correctly, you're probably going to be charging higher prices every single project, because the goal is as you get better, you can charge more for your skills. So when you're giving a bid to a client, there is really no framework or rules around how much you can charge. The only thing that you need to make sure of is that your client is getting an adequate amount of value in return. So you should not be selling a website for $8,000 and then only giving the client $1,000 worth of value. So when you're early on in your career, you're probably going to be charging smaller fees. And then as you get better and you can provide more value in terms of quality and speed and expertise and other guidance around actually marketing the website and other things like that, again, you're going to be able to charge more. All right, so now let's talk about different client types, because the type of client that's willing and going to pay $1,000 for a website is going to be very different from one that's willing to pay, say, $10,000. They're going to be different business types and different types of people. So when I look back historically on all of the websites that I built, my average $1,000 to $2,000 client, most of those projects are either small local businesses or one-person operations. My average $5,000 to $15,000 client are usually mid-sized companies with multiple employees, things like pest control companies, tax and accounting businesses, or law firms. And then anything beyond that $15,000 mark are usually big corporations. So if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, there's no way that somebody's willing to pay $75,000 for a website when my clients complain about paying $2,000 for a website, you're likely dealing with those clients that fall in that smaller bracket, that they have expectations and budgets for no more than $1,000 to $2,000. And that's totally fine. That doesn't mean that they're less or more important. It just means they're different. Now, each of these different client types all comes with their own pros and cons. And what I've found from my own experience is sometimes the biggest clients can be the worst to work with. They often have a lot of decision makers, which slows down the process. They have extremely high expectations. Their projects drag out way longer than you would like them to, which means it takes longer for you to get paid. And above all, they're just a lot harder to find. These aren't the types of clients that you're going to find multiple of them in a single month. In fact, from my experience, these are kind of the once in a blue moon type clients. And so it's really difficult to rely on them. Now, the smaller budget clients, those that often won't spend more than $1,000 to $2,000, they can be really difficult to work with too. They're really needy. Oftentimes, they barely have the budget for this type of project, and so it's going to be a big stretch for them. They're going to be uncomfortable, they're going to hover, they're not going to trust your decisions, and so it can be really difficult working with some of these. The other thing that I find in those lower budget clients is they're often not as good of business people. And this is going to hurt the effectiveness of the website that you build them. You could build a perfect website, maybe even do a little marketing for them, but if they're not good at taking in those leads and converting them to clients or customers, your efforts are really for nothing. And oftentimes these clients will complain to you thinking it's your fault, when in reality, they just don't have the process down on their end. So for all of these reasons, I find that clients in the middle ground are the best to work with. Historically, my best clients are those that fall in the $6,000 to $8,000 range. These clients are quick turnaround, they're easy to get along with, they're high enough budget that you can make a lot of money for every client, but there's also plenty of budget for your expenses and even to outsource people if you'd like. These clients are also established enough that they're comfortable in the budget that they have for these types of projects, and they're more likely to hire you down the road for other website or design services or even marketing services. Now, I should clarify by saying that this isn't going to be true in every single scenario. These are definitely stereotypes, and I have had good clients that are big clients and very small clients. But I definitely see trends among these different types of businesses, and if you can find those that land in that middle ground, the chances of it being a good experience and a profitable experience for you are much greater. Now, these rates that I mentioned will definitely change based on different factors like your location. So I would use what we've talked about in this video as more of a framework rather than exact doctrine. So inside my private community, Pate Pro, we have a resource called the Pricing Blueprint. And in this, we break down how much to charge different projects based on their scope and all of these different factors that we've talked about. We've actually gone out and surveyed thousands of other designers all across the world. So you're going to be able to see what other designers are charging for specific projects. We found that understanding these industry norms helps you know better how to price your projects and how to make them as profitable as possible. Because I would bet that most designers out there are grossly undercharging for their work. Inside Pate Pro, we also have a bunch of other useful trainings on how to package your services and how to price them. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, you can go check it out at patepro.com. I'll also include a link down below this video. Now, to wrap up this video, I would love to hear from you what you think your average price for a website is. So if you're comfortable sharing, you can drop that down below in the comments and I'll be sure to respond to you. Thanks for watching this video and we'll catch you in the next one.